What's up, guys? Welcome back to the FitBiz podcast. Well, today I'm going to have a really important conversation with Miss Leslie Lindsay. So you may remember Leslie from the podcast. We did an episode with her. It was actually episode 254 that aired forever ago in 2019. So Leslie has a background as a physician assistant who transitioned into online fitness coaching. And she came to us through IFCA at literal ground zero. Like, I don't think anyone was ever more of a beginner than Leslie, or like you can't beat her in the beginner category. She was one of those who was like, I use social media for photos of my kids. Like, I've gotten in pretty great shape, have a real passion of helping women get in good shape through fitness and nutrition. But I'm just like, I don't know where to start. I'm like literal ground zero. But she really wanted to get out of what she was doing. And I really suggest that if you're the healthcare worker that is thinking along those lines, you go back and you listen to the other episode we did with Leslie. But Leslie, I'd like to jump in there. If you don't mind just kind of recapping your initial story, what got you into this in the first place? Why were you kind of desperate to leave the medical field and do what you're doing now?
Yeah. So let's see. I'm thankful that you coached me in a bikini competition like almost 10 years ago, because that's the only reason I even knew that this opportunity existed.
Yeah.
So thankful there. But yeah, I was in a place where I was job hopping as a physician assistant. I had done family medicine and neurosurgery and back to family medicine, basically looking for that unicorn work-life balance job in healthcare. Turns out does not exist. And I was just burnout. I was miserable in my career, seeing patients back to back every 10, 15 minutes, constantly charting. And then I just had my second baby. So I felt like I was never home, and I was leaving my kids every day, seeing them for dinner and bedtime only. I was fried like 4 years into my career. So that's what led me to, I was listening to your podcast. I saw what you were sharing on Instagram and stuff. And I thought, I'm not really in the fitness world anymore, but as a healthcare provider, I thought I certainly have some stuff to share on health. And I had 140 friends and followers on Facebook and Instagram. And for like the last 5 years, I had only used it for pictures of my kids, and I barely used it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't think I could succeed with that, but jumped in, and everyone thought I was crazy. But here we are today, multi six figures. I have a team of other moms that I get to help stay home, and our impact is just growing.
Man, I love that. And I think that's a big reason like online training appeals to a lot of people is the work-life balance, being home with your kids. I remember when you first shared your story, you shared another really impactful reason that I don't even know if you quite remember, but I remember, and I don't want to put the words in your mouth, but you kind of felt like you were on the wrong side of healthcare. Like you were seeing a lot of these people on their way to lifestyle diseases and stuff going on. And you're like, man, if I could just keep this person in my office and talk to them about nutrition for 30 minutes, I could probably change their life. But you didn't really have the ability to do that. Do you mind speaking to that piece of it?
Yeah, exactly. And this is still something I talk with today all the time with other healthcare providers. So, medicine just wasn't what I thought it was or what it was going to be. It's a lot of early diagnosis, early treatment, and not
Yeah.
so much preventative medicine. So, you've got like 15 to 20 minutes with these people. You're already 20 minutes behind, and you want nothing more to sit there and be like, hey, yeah, I don't want to give you this diabetic medication, this thyroid medication, this weight loss medication, this everything, heart medication, everything, right? I don't want to do this to you, but I have no time, and my employers are going to get mad. No one's going to reimburse me if I just sit here and talk to you about nutrition, right? And just lifestyle interventions. And that's what I call, and I took this from Z-Dog. Any healthcare professionals listening will probably know who this guy is, but he's a physician, and I almost don't want to call it burnout anymore. I want to call it like moral injury, because it goes against your morals
Yeah.
of what you take this, you take the Hippocratic Oath, you say, I'm going to do best by my patients, but then you're pushed into this system that doesn't support that. And
Mm.
so you're fighting with your, your inner morals of like, I want to actually make an impact on health and help these people. But then like, this is my job. This is what I have to do. And pharma is like the sexy thing in medicine today.
Yeah, man, it's so unfortunate that that system is what it is, but I really think that there's a revolution that just started 5 years ago. And if anybody thinks, oh, online coaching is saturated, I shouldn't get into it now. No, 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 no. I mean, every industry started in this way. If you aren't familiar, nurses at one time, every nurse had their own private practice. Nurses just started out like just being nurses and helping doctors and had zero certifications or anything. And then eventually it became an industry. And then of course, this industry has gotten overhauled to where it's at today. And not to say all healthcare providers are bad. They're just like, they're forced in the confines of the system that Leslie was just talking about. So I really think that online fitness coaching will become something like nurses have become. I mean, people need this. I really think that we're going to need one fitness coach for every 100 people in the world. And if you just do that math, like there's not even close to that many fitness coaches. But anyway, tangent. There's another thing I hear a lot from healthcare workers too. I hear that. And then I also hear just like the conditions that they're forced to work in. Did you ever experience any of that? Just like not.
Yeah. So honestly, it's just, I don't know how else to say this other than you just feel like you're the hospital system's bitch. Like you're
Yeah.
just like,
I think it's the perfect way to say
yeah.
it.
It's like you know either what medication you want to give or what treatment you want to do, but you're dictated by either insurance or what you have available at the hospital, this or that, right? But then it's just there's this culture in healthcare where it is just assumed that your health, your mental health, your physical health, all of that just goes to the back burner, like suck
Yeah.
it up, buttercup, right?
Yeah, don't pee for 12 hours. Like that's
Yeah,
normal and
yeah.
healthy.
Eat and chart at the same time. I can't tell you, I had, I had babies while I was in healthcare. And so I had to go pump. And I tell you what, I got like freaking dagger looks every time I had to go pump. And I'm like, we're going to sit here and like tell our patients, oh, anxiety,
Stress
depression,
management.
overwhelm, all this stuff is real and you need to treat it. But then if a provider, there is a culture where you're not supposed to talk about those things in
Yeah.
healthcare. And I think that just goes, I am a completely different person, like 180 from where I was 4 years ago,
Yeah.
and that is because I got out of that culture, out of that environment. And I surrounded myself with people who are all about that, all
Yeah.
about taking care of yourself.
Well, and you got out pre-pandemic. Do you have many friends and people that you talk to who share with you how much worse it's even gotten?
Yeah, so I actually quit March 2020. So I had just gone back. My son was 3 months old. And I mean, I had to do, everything. Had to see patient, and that sucked. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, can I just go in? I don't care. Like, do I not have to do all this, But yeah, gown, mask, eyewear, all that stuff. Thank God I got out, because hearing how bad it got, the rest of 2020 and 2021, and even since then, it's just, it adds that much more constraint to the provider. It's that much more of a pain in the ass to the providers
Yeah.
than it is to
Yeah.
anybody else. Yeah.
And you don't really have the ability to help people in the way that you want to.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing all that. I think a lot of healthcare providers, they're like going to listen to this podcast and be like, oh my God, yes, you're taking the words out of my mouth. Like, this is how I feel. Okay. But how can I do something different? How can I actually make a change? And of course we could be like, join IFCA, start your own business. But there's so much fear that comes with that. And I think some of the biggest question people have is like, what? Like, how do I even start? Like, how is that a thing? Right. And then there's a bunch of other fears and limiting beliefs and stuff too. But well, let's come back around to the how do I start? Because I think people have to get some other things out of their own way first. I think the biggest thing that comes up first is they don't feel like they feel like they have like golden handcuffs. They're in the prison that they created for themselves. It's a good job. Life is good. And they also have all of these student loans or whatever, all the sunk costs they put into that. Do you mind speaking to that? Because I mean, you weren't just like, well, since I'm filthy rich, now I'll just forget about this and start
No,
this
like
new thing.
super freaking poor. Yeah, no, actually I want to touch on some other fears as well, but I do want to touch on that. So yeah, I think that you believe as a healthcare provider, like one, it's also a status career, right?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
you go into a medical program and you're like, I have respect in this position. And
That's
like
a really great point.
if I leave this career, am I still going to have respect, you know?
Yeah.
And as vain or whatever as that sounds, it's like you worked your ass off for that career. You went through so much schooling, you gave up. Like while we watched our friends buying houses and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, we're like, oh, I'm over here still in fucking school, like, you know? So there's that, and you worked so hard. That's another piece of it. It's like I worked so hard at this. You almost feel obligated to like, this is
Yeah.
what I do, you know? And because you have that debt, that's another thing. You're like, well, I have to do this because I took out the loan for this, right? So, which is so limiting because obviously there can be never any other way I can make money to pay on
Right.
that student loan, you know? Or you think that you're going to do like the public service loan forgiveness program, which who even knows if will exist, right? You're like banking, you're putting all your eggs in one basket there. And for that, healthcare providers have to work over 30 hours full time for 10 years at a public service deemed location.
Wow.
So that's usually lower income. That's usually like not the job that's fun to work at, right?
Mhm.
So I don't know. Yeah, there's so many things. And then I always think back to where I was. Like I was always worried my friends, my family, people were gonna judge me
Yeah.
for leaving healthcare. Um, and just feel like, and actually they did. I remember my grandparents said something to my mom, like sly comment under the table, like she's not even doing, like she's not even practicing medicine anymore. Like,
Yeah.
no.
I mean, that's great. That proves that you're doing something right. I want to
Yeah.
touch back on what you were saying about like the loans and stuff. And if you've never heard of the term sunk cost, that's what that is, right? It's I put all of this time into this, so I can't possibly give it up now. There's a quote that changed my life, and I forget who it's from, but it's something along the lines of sometimes our greatest gains are avoided future losses. And that quote allowed me to look at my life and go, okay, so I already like had this loss. There's a lot of future loss that could come in, in my time away from my family, in this healthcare system that I hate working in, like tons and tons of losses that I would take if I
Mhm.
continue to do this.
Yeah.
But like what if I could just avoid that future and not look at the past and say, well, I've already made it this far. This is the equivalent. And I love breaking things down on a really small scale, because if you understand something small, you'll go, well, that's stupid. Well, then you're doing the same thing. So if you bought a ticket to a movie and it was $10 and you sat in the movie and you get an hour in, and it's a long ass movie, it's 3 hours, and you hated it. You hate it. It's not what you thought it was. Would you go, well, I already spent my $10 on it, so I have to now waste the next 2 hours of my day watching this movie because I paid for it. And of course, most reasonable people wouldn't do that. Some would, because some of the beliefs run so deep, but then you just zoom out on your life and you ask, where else am I doing that? Like, I just might need to take an L on this one, but there's so much that goes into that, right? The fear of judgment that you mentioned, losing my status, all of these ego things that we need to release.
Right.
So I encourage you, if you're listening to this podcast and you are like, that's the thing that's holding you back, it's not the student loans. There's something under it. Is it your mom's judgment? Is it your grandma's judgment? Is it like the status? Like, will people still respect you? Whatever. And then what's under that? Like, whose respect do you actually need? Who's paying your bills? At the end of the day.
Yeah.
So there's so much good stuff under that. I think one thing that really comes down under that I want to get your take on, because you made this jump and it seems like, you just made up your mind and you did it so effortlessly. And the thing that gets me the most is I think that people don't trust themselves. Yes, starting a business is scary, but people, they like, especially healthcare providers, you are in life or death situations. You trust yourself to save people's lives, but you don't trust yourself to like have your own financial livelihood. You trust the hospital more than that. And we've seen how that has worked out over the last few years and how many healthcare providers have lost their jobs. But what allowed you to finally go, you know what, I'm just going to go for this?
Yeah. I think you need a picture of like what my 6 months was like leading up to this. So I was miserable for years, just had second baby. And I mean, I shit you not, I still have the piece of paper, at least a picture of it. I was writing out on the sheet of paper, trying to calculate a schedule that would like allow me to work just enough hours to like make just enough money. But also to allow me to pick up my kids in time for daycare, to be able to spend time with them. I was so torn. I was just in this place where like, how can I work the least, but still be, in healthcare doing the thing. I was looking at, and I'm sure a lot of healthcare professionals find themselves in this place, looking at like medical liaison or farm rep, or like switching into still like just non-clinical roles, or like faculty roles, that type of thing. But really it's just lateral moves, right? Because someone else is still controlling your schedule. You're still doing shit you don't enjoy at that point, or believe in, right? And so
then there's the moral component, maybe even worse on that side if you're already feeling the way you're feeling. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, well, so I don't believe in this, but maybe it'll give me a better, work-life balance or something like that. I think I just got to this point where I saw so much change in me. My husband saw so much change in me, just in terms of stress. I was letting my own health go, just really not happy. I mean, we sold this big, beautiful house that we bought that I was so proud of, and like moved into a modular fixer-upper. And this was all just to cut costs, to be like, how can I work less in this place, that's this environment that's just soul sucking. And so I think that I had just been there long enough where I was like, something's gotta give. Like, I don't care who thinks what of me. I don't care, So I guess I thought, what's worst case scenario if this doesn't work out, like worst case scenario, okay, it doesn't work. And now I gotta go fucking find a urgent care job or something.
You're doing the same thing you're doing now. Worst case.
Yes. Like worst case scenario, I, pick myself up and I go back and figure something else out. Right. But now today, I say I am never going back. Like I am not even, I've kept my license active up until this point, but when it comes to renewing next year, I'm not going to do it. I don't care.
Burn the boats, man. That's awesome.
Yes.
I want to talk about the ROI for student loans versus the ROI for like a business mentorship, and maybe just get people's wheels turning in that way, because I think oftentimes we just accept education for what it is so easily. $100,000, sure, yeah, no problem, so that I can make a job and maybe make $100,000 a year, and then do all and then have all the bad parts of it that you mentioned too. But when it comes to, and I really do think this is the way a lot of the world is moving now with the internet and stuff. Hey, this person has learned it ahead of me, or this company has learned it ahead of me, and now I can just pay them to accelerate time. And I think we're moving away from like institutional learning and stuff in a lot of ways. But I think people who went through the educational system, they look at it that way, and they might think that, business mentorship or these other ways to learn things is very guru-ish. But can you just speak to like the ROI that you've seen in doing something a little bit unconventional versus your medical degree?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you made a really good point. That was like a limiting belief that I had as a healthcare provider. We've been taught that you go to school for this degree, especially healthcare providers, because it's like, that's a very specific specialty. Right. This is what you do. Right. And so we're taught that you go to school, you get the degree, that's what you do with it. And there's like no gray area. No. Right. But that's not true, especially like you said, with the way the internet, the way people are changing. Like people don't want to just be sold drugs and that kind of thing. So many people, there's a shift where it's like, I want to do functional type care, lifestyle stuff, and then go to the hospital when I need stitches or surgery or something, And so I think that, I think it's just, especially in medicine, it's kind of like the traditional values, all that stuff where you think, you go to school, you do this, but there's so much more, especially nowadays, that you can do with your healthcare degree. So I'm telling you, even if you already did it, you bit the bullet, you went to medical school, you invested in a program, but you're finding yourself maybe in a position like I am, where you're just not happy, or it's just not turning out the way you want it to do or wanted it to, you can do something else with that degree. So my limiting beliefs was like, well, I don't have a personal training certification. I'm not ripped. I don't have a large social media following, and I also don't want to grind and like there's no way I'm going to be able to have a business and start a business. No one in my family is entrepreneurs. That was never something I've ever seen, you know? The word scared me. I was like, no, I had the golden handcuffs, right? Like I have a secure job, quote unquote, secure job. I have a secure income, right? And just the whole idea of the entrepreneurism and all of that was scary.
Yeah. Well, a lot of media makes it out to be scary. There was this whole like hustle culture that came through in like 2014, 2015, 2016.
Yeah.
And I think like those were some of the first people to figure it out. And now like with the internet, AI and all these things, everybody's so much more savvy. Man, that
Oh, yeah,
rant that you just went was
I know, I don't think I answered your question. I just
no,
remembered
there was
now.
something I wanted to piggyback on off of that because it was so good. And that you did answer my question. What I want people to hear is just like your mentality, because you just have confidence and belief in yourself. And at some point you just have to. And, you know, I think people say, well, I need this exact guarantee, this exact path. And it's only because you've had that fake security your whole life. You've thought your path was perfectly paved out from high school to college to grad school to medical school, whatever your path looked like. But I mean, it's really not. If anything has shown you that the last few years through the pandemic and everything should have shown you that you're really not all that secure. But what I wanted to touch on there, what you said, healthcare providers do awesome at this for the same reason you've done awesome at this, is you like all the limiting beliefs that you mentioned are what people think they need a certification. They think they need to be rich. They think they need 1 million followers. The reason you've done so well is because you already had authority. People have already trusted you with their health and you've trusted yourself. So you've gained a lot of confidence. So you weren't in this position where like, oh, I don't know if I can help somebody. I'm afraid to talk to people, you know, because you're like, I show up and I save lives and I've been doing this. So those kind of people do really, really well. And I would be willing to bet too that in the beginning you leveraged your network as well, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I would say I definitely had patients. You know what's really cool is there's PAs that I used to work with. There's PAs that I used to just know through the hospital, like, hey, bye, you know, walk past people that are referring patients to me now.
Man, that's cool.
It's so cool. Like, oh yeah, my provider told me to go see Leslie.
That's
and
great.
it's amazing. You're like, okay, yes, like at least we're getting in the right direction. But I think you'd also asked me about my ROI on student loans versus that was so I wanted to circle back and touch on that because it's mind-blowing. You know, that was one of the biggest hesitations I had was how am I figures, you know? And I did neurosurgery and was, making like between 120 and 130 with call and everything on. And I'm a PA, so I'm not a physician, so they're making more, obviously. But you think about, so my student loans, I went to one of the most expensive PA schools. Oh my God, I was an idiot. So they're like, it's $300K. It's like where my student loans are at. And I was like, I got to do something where I make money because otherwise I'm screwed. And I think about the hours I was putting in, right? 60 hours a week, missing out on time with my family, all that stuff. And I was getting 120 to 130, right?
Wow. I literally couldn't imagine working 60 hours a week now that I have a child.
I cried. So there were multiple times I left and I cried, and it was always call weekends. It was always the worst because you're like, I just want to be home with my family. But yeah. And then so fast forward a few years, right? But even I look back at my first year, let's say I was putting in between 20 and 30 hours a week on my business. And I hit 100K like revenue. And then I just, from there was like, oh shit, this is limitless now. Like, I'm only putting in 20 or 30 hours and I'm new. And I had 140 people in my like social media network, right? So go now. And I'm making more than I ever could have as a PA, unless I wanted to work 2 PA jobs, which is like freaking impossible. So, and I see a lot of PA moms and a lot of healthcare provider moms in general that are attempting to make an income on the side so that they can eventually quit, right? Where I think that that's a backwards way to look at it. We come across students a lot too that do that. Like, well, I'll quit once I hit this. And it's like, but what if you could have all those hours and put that towards your business? I know it's scary, but if you have some type of savings, if you can survive off of, $5,000 a month for a couple months or something, And
Yep.
if you can put time into it, like, I really don't think there's a whole lot of room for failure if you
Yeah.
just show up, you know?
Dude, I just recorded 2 podcasts on this topic all around money and the way people think about money and the way people think about debt versus leverage.
Yeah.
I can't remember, did you use any debt for IFCA?
Oh yeah, I put it all on a credit card.
Did put on a credit card. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, for you were able to just make that comparison really easily. Like if I were to go $300,000 in debt for this chance,
Yep.
I could go $15,000 in debt for this chance. Like that,
Yep.
that makes
I was
perfect sense.
like, fuck it. What's another few thousand? I'm already 300K in and freaking miserable. Like,
Yeah.
this is not going to hurt me. You know what I mean? I guess that's kind of like, worst case scenario, what's going to happen again? And I just kept coming back to that. I'm like, okay, worst case.
I love playing at worst case scenario.
Yeah.
I always do with clients because you start getting down the rabbit hole and you're like, okay, so worst case scenario is this.
Mm-hmm.
Probably should just try it and see what happens.
Yep.
I wanted to start with the conversation around this. So I haven't even mentioned, guys. So Leslie, she's had all this success in her business and now she works with us in IFCA. So she is a success coach inside of IFCA. And I remember, Leslie, when you applied, I was like, are you sure? She just had her 3rd baby. She's running her own business. I'm like, this woman is like superwoman. How the hell is she going to have time for this? And I remember asking Travis that, and he's like, no, she's pretty good. Like her business is to a point where she's solid. And I think a lot of it has to do with your overall character now too, your ability to manage stress. And you just are like way calmer about things, about challenges and everything. And it's amazing how much you think you're busy and stressed out when really like it's like your internal world is messed up. But anyway, we were like, we went through the interviews. We're like, she has plenty of time to do this. She'd make such an amazing asset to our team for all the reasons you guys are hearing right now. She's an incredible coach. But I want to kind of talk on the coaching side with you a little bit to help ease the concern for people who are like, oh my God, that's just like a daunting thing. I couldn't imagine starting my own business. What would it even look like? So if we were to stick someone in your roster who is brand new student, say maybe like they were you, coming in, they have no social media, nowhere to start. Their biggest thing is how do I even start? What are the first few things that you do with a student like that?
Yeah. So, and I really do want to think about a student like me too, especially because we are talking a little bit about like healthcare professionals specifically. Man, I think back now too, you have so much leverage as a healthcare professional.
Yeah.
Like your knowledge, your authority, you can be such a unique person in this space. And I want to just say this because, little side note, I took my kids to their doctor's appointments yesterday, and their doctor, who's family practice, who has been their doctor for the last few years, he's young. He just had his 2nd kid. Guess what? He's leaving because he hates the hospital system and he hates it. And he's trying to figure out a better way to treat patients, whether that's going to their homes, concierge, private medicine. I actually talked to him about this.
I was going to say, bring him an IFCA, see if we can help.
I did. I was like, hey, I sent him like my old podcast. I talked to him a little bit and I was like, here's my cell. We're going to chat because you guys can crush it as functional medicine, online health coaching. Like it doesn't have to be fitness. I wanted to throw that out there because I think that's a hesitation for a lot of people who might see like Impact Fitness Coaching Academy. We're definitely fitness coaches, nutrition coaches. But when you think about it, we're also very much towards like functional and health and lifestyle coaches, right? So I wanted to slide that.
Those people do even better because that's a more painful problem.
Yes.
Like, people will have an extra 20 pounds and kind of just ignore it some days and some days it bothers them and whatever. And that's a harder sell than, hey, like your dad just died of a heart attack and you're headed down the same path and your doctor just told you're going to have to go on all these medications. Yeah. I can help fix that. I mean, that's a problem that is worth solving. And that's what gets me excited. So when I say, let's see if we can help them, that's what I want to hear. Give me your spiel. Tell me what problem you're solving. Yes. We can build an offer around that. We can teach everything else.
That's what I wanted to. So, you think about it with healthcare professionals, they have such an amazing opportunity in this space. And even now I'm like, I need to go and like revamp some of my messaging. But they do like hormones and stuff, like if you are
Yes.
interested in gut health, inflammatory protocols, like all those things, which I do with my clients, I just don't like to talk about it. But
Yeah.
I would take them on and say, okay, who do you really want to focus with, right? Like first we're going to figure out who is it that you actually want to work with? Like who is
Mhm.
your, what we call your ideal client, right? And determine that. And because you're a healthcare professional, if that's the case, we can really get cool here. Like we
Mhm.
can get like, do you want to work on hormones? Do you want to work on people that are on thyroid medication that shouldn't be? Do you want to be focusing on, gut health and inflammatory stuff? Like you have so many avenues where not only are you going to have a lot that are going to want to come see you and get help in a natural way or a functional way, you're going to have so many people that are looking for the more natural avenues and stuff. So I would really talk to them and we can get really clear and specific on who it is you want to help. Do you want to leverage the fact that you're a healthcare professional and bring that into your messaging and your marketing? You're going to be able to charge higher ticket, etc. But then we want to talk about your offer. So like,
Yeah.
how is your offer more unique? And what I mean by that, and I'll clarify because I know when I was going through, you guys were saying like systems and offer and all this stuff. And I was like,
Yeah. We have a
wait,
whole
okay,
IFCA
I don't
language.
even, I'm like, I don't even know what that means. Really, what that means is what's going to make you unique, what's going to make you different. As a healthcare professional, boom, you already are so unique and different than 90% of the like fitness professionals. But then like you can really niche down and say, I work with women who are struggling with hormone imbalances or inflammatory processes, right? And you just can't get any answers, and all the meds you're taking are impacting your, side effects, and maybe it's crushing your sex life, maybe, because so many meds do that. Which who wants to go through life and be like, cool, well, my anxiety is better, but now I don't want to have sex with my husband.
Right.
Like
Right.
no one wants that. Now you're anxious about something else. So you're going to craft this offer that's going to make people be like, wow, you know what? I haven't tried that. And I've tried going to the doctor. I've tried these meds. I haven't tried that. And I want to work with them. And then we'll take you through, obviously, of course, like basically how to help, how to talk to these people, and what is the right word I'm looking for? Basically your sales skills,
Like
right?
attract them. Yeah.
Yeah, like how to bring in those clients, right?
Mhm.
How to make them say, oh my gosh, I have to work with you.
Yeah.
Like you're exactly what I need. But then also how to have those patients, clients, to have them be like, wow, this is fucking amazing. I need to tell all my friends and I need to come work with you. Like, so we help you through all of that. And those would be my first 3 steps then. So like, just
Yeah.
to recap, we're going to leverage your healthcare professional. We're going to leverage whatever your background is and whatever it is that makes you unique in this industry. And then number 2, we're going to craft an offer that's going to have people banging at the door saying, I need to come work with you because what I'm doing right now isn't getting me what I want.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
that third piece is like how to bring in consistent leads. Cause that's the piece I think as healthcare professionals too, we're worried about. Like a lot of us just work for a system that throw people on our schedule.
You didn't go to school for marketing and sales.
No,
And
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
I love that you touched on that. And I think you were such a unique case, and we work with so many very beginner people like that. I think there's another type of person out there who's trying this themselves and they're getting really frustrated and discouraged because they're such a good coach. But it's such a flawed belief to think because I'm a good coach, I should be a good business person. I should be getting clients. And like I just said, you didn't go to school for marketing and sales. And luckily there is a school for marketing and sales and systems and client attraction and how do you build the whole thing behind the scenes and how do you get referrals and all of this stuff. And good news to you is it's so much cheaper than the school that you already went to.
Yep. And I remember that was definitely like a hesitation for me, was even just listening to the podcast, even just like I chatted with Hayden on my, sales call with you guys. And I was like, they are saying so many words that I don't fucking understand right now. And it's a new realm, right? But I promise
Yeah.
you, if you went through any type of healthcare schooling,
Yes.
you will go through this, like you'll fly through it. It'll be fine.
That's a good point.
There's no like studying till midnight. There's no like, I just can think back to being in school and just hating my freaking life with studying and all that stuff. But you guys were saying things like systems and all that. And I kept just being like, what? And really it's like, okay, like, what kind of software are we going to use?
Yeah,
Like,
how do you get it in their client in your client's hands for online?
yes,
No,
yes,
this is great feedback. This is actually feedback we give clients, especially functional health coaches, because they're so smart. And then I look at their content and I'm like, your ideal client has no idea what you're talking about. Say to me in layman's terms what you're trying to say. And then they tell me, and I'm like, go talk about that. So then people know
yeah,
what their problem is. You know, you talk about the problem, the pain. And so that's very much us talking about the features of IFCA systems and offer and this and that, when really what we're trying to say is, do you want to know how to get clients? Do you want to know how to get them consistently? Do you want clients that come to you without you chasing them down? Do you want to know how to deliver your thing and not spend tons of hours doing it? So no, it's funny. You get in your craft and you don't even know you're doing it, you know?
yeah. Yeah, I was always like, never wanted to admit that to anybody too. I was like, I had no idea what half the time everyone's like, oh, I'm just getting my systems or I'm doing something. I'm like, what the hell are
You're
they
like, what
talking
are these
about?
systems I'm missing? No, that's funny. Um, any other reasons that you see people get stuck, that they might have this inkling to be like, I should leave this career, but I just can't?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is some of the pieces, the major pieces we talked about, right? So like fear of judgment, but then also like you did it, right? You went to school for this thing. You feel like you have to, like, I don't know, do your duty or you're obligated to do that. Um, and then I also think this was a point that I was just chatting about with another PA who's gone through and is just fucking crushing it. But her and I were both like, God, I remember I was terrified to show up on social media.
Yeah.
Especially as a healthcare professional. So people today are losing jobs based off of either their beliefs, if they post them on social media, or I remember I was so scared to post a picture if I was holding a beer or
Yeah.
anything on social media because I was like, I don't know if I can lose my job over a beer, you know?
Tradition way of thinking. Yeah.
Yes. And so I think that was a huge piece of it for me was I don't know. And as a belief, I don't know if I can show up like that. I don't know if I can do dances on reels and this and that, which is
And to be fair,
100%
you don't
not
have
required.
to.
Yeah.
Right.
Like not required. Right. That was there for me too, was I don't know, like I don't have the ripped body. I'm not in the fitness world. I don't have a big following. All those things were circling. And I could have said, these are all the reasons why it won't work for me.
Yeah.
But I looked at all the success stories and instead I kind of, and maybe this was a little bit more advanced for me, but I was like, if all of those people can do it, and I went to freaking medical school, if I can, well, medical program, right? If I can do that, I can do this. Like I can
Yeah.
figure this out, you know?
That's something we talk about all the time. And like my number, I'm not the one taking every sales call anymore. So to try to teach a sales team on like, who do we allow to come into IFCA? What kind of people do we enroll? And it's a character thing. I always tell our sales team, like my judgment call line is what I trust my mom or my sister or someone that I love and care about, would I trust them to be their coach? And that doesn't even come down to skills either. It's not like, am I looking at this person saying I'm the best experience, the best coach? In business, there are three things. I say this all the time on the podcast, but there's skills, there's character traits, and there's belief. If the character traits are solid, I can recognize limiting beliefs and I can go, we'll work on those. You'll get an IFCA, you'll get around everybody who is doing the thing that you're scared to do, and then you'll just do it. Or you finally will say something and it'll resonate. You'll get over the beliefs. The skills can also be taught, but the character traits, the hard work, like you put yourself through medical school, like I'm pretty sure you could do this. I'm pretty sure you have the character traits. You've done, hard things in your life. So that's a really good point. And I love that you touched on the social media piece, because I think that's something that holds so many people back. But on that point too, there are three currencies. There's money. Obviously, money is currency. If we all had all the money in the world, we probably wouldn't be like, let's start an online coaching business, There's also an audience. That's one way to do it. You can grow followers on social media. You can get a bunch of people and that audience can then make you money. But there's a third one that a lot of people don't think about, and it's your network. If you have a network, you can make money off of that network. You can also build an audience off of a network because you start getting referrals and it starts building. So I think if you're scared of social media, I actually think that's the stupidest way to start growing a business, thinking, well, let me get up here and start posting reels and start trying to get stuff to go viral. And let me just build this audience, because you probably have people in your immediate network who already know, like, and trust you.
Yeah. I would say I'm still even operating off of network. Like
Yeah.
I'm only at 1,000 people on Instagram and Facebook and stuff these days. And, probably 600 of them are other coaches, you
Right.
know? So like, I know a lot of that's not coming from social media. That's more of like long-term nurturing gain for
Yes.
me. Right.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm still on just that immediate network, previous patients, friends from high school, their friends and family, referrals from everyone that comes to me. Right. But then think about
Yeah.
it too. Think about your network. Like I said, I've got some PAs that are referring their patients to me. I've got, goodness, especially if you're parents, like my daughter's in
Yeah.
school. Do you know how many moms I talk to all the time because my daughter's in school? Like you don't have to be coming in hot, feeling good on social media. Like that's going to be like we'll get there,
Right.
but you don't have to feel good about that.
Yeah.
And that is something that definitely held me back when I was starting. I was like, I can't show I can't do a video,
Uh-huh.
like, I was
Me
like,
too. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I've been on the app since way before there was video. And I remember when the video feature came out, I was like, nope, I'm just going to stick to posting my photos and writing captions. I'm a good writer. I will never speak. And Jordan just made me after a while. And
yeah,
now I would say if you want to look at all three currencies and you want to build a big business, just get comfortable in video because people have short attention spans, but also just get comfortable and uncomfortable in general. Like
yeah,
it's going to serve you in entrepreneurship and everything you do. Healthcare is uncomfortable, going to school is uncomfortable. It's just one of those things that falls in the skills bucket.
yeah.
Leslie, you are awesome on this forum. You really do need to have a podcast, and I'm saying it here so that you have some accountability so that everyone knows Leslie's
You
going to
actually
start a
told me
podcast.
last time. You told me last time we got off. You're like,
Did I?
Leslie, you should really start one. I was like, it like planted the seed, and it just took me a little while.
No,
But I've got like a million things happening. So, but podcast is my next. It is coming.
for sure. It'd be great. And it's gonna hop over and listen.
Mhm.
Any final words of wisdom for, again, just kind of speaking to that person who is looking at this opportunity? It seems so scary, but they'd love to leave their current position and trade good for great.
Yeah, I think that's a point I'm glad you just made, right? Everyone on the outside could have looked at my situation and said, you have it good, right? Like you make 6 figures, you work for a hospital system that's like well known in the area. There you have benefits, which okay, fine, like I can buy my own insurance now. But that was scary, right? Like that was something that I didn't realize
I
because you're
should do
just
a whole podcast episode on that. That's such a silly limit.
It is, but that is something like I even just chatted with one of our students. She's so sweet, but she was like, that was the big belief holding her back from taking time off of her full-time job. I was like,
Yeah.
well, I have good benefits. And I'm like, what benefits are we talking about?
Right.
Right. And she was like, well, like insurance. I'm like, okay, I can help you figure that out. Like we can get insurance away from your job. Like it's fine.
Yeah.
But it's especially just working in like corporate or hospital type world, that's just what you're used to, right? It's like I'm just used to that being figured out for me.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think there's probably like we've talked a lot about healthcare professionals, so I just think there's probably 2 kinds of healthcare professionals that will end up listening to this. I think there's the healthcare professional that is experiencing like burnout or moral injury. They feel overworked, undervalued, underappreciated, and also really question if they feel fulfilled, right? Like if they're actually doing what they went to school for. Like, we all start going into like pre-med and all those things, and we're thinking, I'm going to change lives. I'm going to, and I can't tell you how many people now, and it's so sad. I just see like jaded and just unable to almost even be empathetic with
Yeah.
patients because you're just like, I found myself in that position, and this
I've
is going
been
to,
on the receiving end of that position, and
yeah,
I can't blame you.
this is going to sound terrible, and you can cut this out if you want, but this is going to sound terrible. But there was a time when I was, listening to a patient, and she was kind of just going on, and she was just stressed, and maybe I was the only person that she could talk to about that stuff that day, but I was already 30 minutes behind. I had a procedure coming up, and she was like literally just impacting my ability to leave the room. And in my head, I'm just like, shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up. Like, that's not okay. I went home, I'm like, this is not okay. Like, that's not okay. That doesn't, I'm not doing good here. I'm not fulfilled. So I think there's those people, right? You want to replace your income. You want to find a way to get out of medicine. There's also those people, I think, that are maybe like health professionals that have already kind of tried, like kind of dipped their toes in the water. Like, well, maybe I'll try to, be a farm rep or a medical sales liaison, or maybe I'll get like a little side hustle business and do either, like, I know with a lot of health professionals right now, it's like the hemp and CBD business, trying to like sell that, but that's all MLM stuff, right? So some sort of side gig business, maybe I'll just try to ramp that up until I can leave, or I'll go part-time or something, right? But the thing is, you're still working on someone else's schedule. You're still not collecting all that revenue, right? And you're just sick and tired of it. It's unpredictable, and it's still not what you want, right? So I think those are probably like the two healthcare professionals that will end up finding this episode. And I guess what I want to tell you is, oh man, all those limiting beliefs we just talked about, all those fears, all those kind of egotistical type things, right? Like the respect and this and that. You have so much to offer if you can just take a step back. And I almost think of it as like, I had a friend who stayed in a relationship too long because they'd already invested too much.
Yes.
Yeah, they had already invested too much time and energy. They lived together and this and that, but they were not happy. They knew they could do better. They couldn't see the rest of their life this way, but they just were like, it's just going to be too much effort. It's just going to be too much of a show to everyone else around us if I took that leap, right? Whereas I want to tell you, like, no one else really freaking cares. Like, your family and your friends are actually going to be way happier when you're happier. Like, whatever that's going to take. They don't care what job you do, right? And for some reason, I feel like we have that stuck in our head that people do.
Yeah.
It's almost like that entitlement thing with being a provider. And
I'll
admit it.
Yeah.
I'll admit it, right? Like that godlike complex or something. You're like, well, I'm a provider. Like, I'm cool as hell, but like, no one really cares. Like my husband, didn't care. Your friends and family don't care. So I think it's just, you have to get out of your own way. And if you are a healthcare professional that's in that position, I beg you to at least talk to someone with us, because my God, we could help you have such a better life. Just quality of life. I mean, money and stuff, yes, like that's there, that will come, and that's awesome. But once you get to the money piece, what's really more important is like, how is my life?
Yes.
You know what my life is like right now? My kids are outside playing in the pool with so our nephew nannies, right? But I get to go outside after this podcast. I can breastfeed my daughter. I got to pick up my kid every day from school. I got to go to all the school functions, like, and I couldn't imagine it being another way.
Yeah, man, thank you for that. That's awesome. I want to share one more thing. Because functional medicine changed my life. Like I had the problems that fitness coaches couldn't solve. And after this experience, I pivoted my whole company towards functional medicine because I was so passionate about it. So I'm just really, really passionate about you listening to this podcast, stepping outside of your comfort zone. So, I mean, my backstory with just hormones and a year of struggling with infertility was because I thought I was the epitome of health, as a health coach and bodybuilder and all of these things. I didn't know what I was doing, like to my adrenals, to my hormones, to a lot of stuff. And I went to, I don't know, probably 6 different doctors in the traditional medicine route. And I very much experienced what you're telling me, I got put on a medication for anxiety, and I just over and over was just told, like, try this, do this, your hormones are fine, they're normal. And I didn't know that there was a difference between normal, optimal. I just didn't know how, things were being looked at. Like, okay, yeah, you're not headed towards death and you don't need this medication. Well, okay, but I'm 34 years old and would love to get pregnant. It just wasn't happening. So I actually found a functional health coach who was willing to listen to me. That's the biggest thing. If you really give a shit and you have the knowledge, like, you will be incredible at this, because like I said earlier, these are expensive problems. These are problems worth solving. The first time someone just gave me a questionnaire that I was just like, oh my God, yeah, this, I was checking everything. It's like, no one's ever asked me any of these questions before. And at that point I was like, I don't even care. Don't even sell me on anything. Here's my money. Just
Yeah.
Just please continue to, I don't care if you can fix me, just talk to me about it.
Right.
No one's even willing to hear me.
Yeah.
And I promise you, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people out there who need your help. So if you don't want to do it for yourself, if you're like, it's fine, life is good, I'm comfortable, do it for all the women who need your help, or whoever your ideal client would be. Do it for those
Yeah.
people.
Absolutely. I mean, that's so funny you said that, because I'm sure you got to ask questions like, do you feel safe in your home?
Yeah.
Or like, have you had any COVID-like symptoms? Have you had a fever? Have you been
Yeah.
coughing? Do you feel safe at home? Are you in a safe relationship? Like, which fine, but like, you're
Right.
not getting those questions that sometimes matter more, right?
Mhm.
And I do want to say that too. Like, I don't have a functional med degree, right? I'm a PA. I don't think you need to have a functional med degree as long as you
Yeah.
have your knowledge. And of course, you can always learn more, read more if you want to go out and get a functional med institution degree or certificate or whatever, fine. But like, I'm helping women. We have a client right now who was sent to me by my husband, who's a chiropractor. And see, like, your network is going to be huge as a healthcare professional. But she, same thing, story, like, gone everywhere, been on a bunch of medicine. We put her on an anti-inflammatory protocol and she's down 15 pounds. She has rosacea that's healed. She feels amazing. She's over 55 and this has changed her life, right? So there's that return as well that I guess I want to make sure that I highlight is money is obviously great. Obviously, time, financial freedom has been life-changing, but it's also the fulfillment that you will get doing this, right? No one's rushing your experience with these clients who need your help. You're able to take the time to talk to them. You can teach about things that you're passionate about. You can really give one-on-one help and change other people's lives. And it's not like, oh, thanks, doc, for the refill. Now can I talk to you about this, this, and that, right? It's not that anymore. It's someone crying on the other end of the call being like, oh my God, you changed my life, right?
Yeah.
And I got off this med, or I was able to do this. And it's so fulfilling, which just adds to your bucket, right?
Yep. Awesome. Well, we should probably wrap up. I feel like I could talk
Mhm.
about this stuff with you forever. This is
Yeah.
like I said, it's a problem just near and dear to my heart. And so many people, I mean, we are still talking about life and death here. So if we can say anything to help you, if you're on the fence, if you can help people, like, to get you out of your own way, if you're not currently helping people, at least just like look into it, right?
Yeah.
Scroll through the testimonials, get some courage to get on the phone. Like, we're here to just answer any questions that you have about IFCA, in any ways, well, Leslie, she's been through it. She got on the call with Hayden. She probably had a bazillion questions.
Mhm.
Like, that's all normal. I get that it's a scary
Mhm.
leap. So hopefully this helped you over your fear some, or just inspired you. And maybe if you didn't even know this was a possibility at all, hopefully this opened your eyes to just, start looking around and see how your life could truly be different.
Yeah.
But thank you, Leslie. This was awesome. I really appreciate you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Cool. We'll see you next time, guys.